I've been learning Korean since September 2021, and the question everyone always asks, especially when they find out how long it's been, is, are you fluent? I've wanted to learn a second language for most of my life, from taking French in high school when it was no longer a required class, taking French again in university when I had an elective free, and even trying to teach myself Japanese through Duolingo in 2016. So what's different about this time that I've managed to stick to it for 4 years now? And what successes and failures have I gone through along the way? Videos on YouTube are always from these amazing polyglots who learning languages just come naturally to them. So today let's talk about someone who struggles a bit and how they've made progress and stay motivated. I decided to start learning Korean on a random day, scrolling TikTok in bed with very little forethought. I've been getting into more Korean culture over the few years before that through food, K-dramas, K-pop, and had also had the motivation to start learning a language again and was even thinking of picking Japanese back up. At this point, I looked more into the Korean language and decided that I would try it. I fully expected it to go like all my other languages where I drop it after a few months, but here we are. I originally started learning through Duolingo like most people do these days. However, once I completed their alphabet course to learn Hangul and started with more of their traditional lessons, I learned what everyone always does, that Duolingo is a terrible language learning tool. Don't get me wrong, I still use it and I have almost a 600-day streak. However, it's terrible for any sort of learning about grammar, sentence structure, or verb conjugation. And all you do is get taught silly sentences that are never actually used in real life, and you just rote learn them so that you can complete the lesson without losing any hearts. Now that I know how to do these things, Duo for me is just a vocabulary learning tool. I already know how to make these sentence structures, and it's just finding new words that I can make into new sentences or revising vocab that I've already learned. After that came the self-study era. I mostly used Talk to Me Korean as my friend who had been learning the language at the time recommended them, but also some other online courses. I made flashcards, completed workbooks, and tried my hardest to understand the big differences between Korean and English sentence structures, but I was really struggling. I was also working as a full-time doctor in 2021 and 2022. I was often so tired from work, especially in 2022, that I never touched my resources and would just do Duolingo and other apps to keep up my streaks. But even that wasn't until the later half of the year. I could regurgitate sentences that the apps and textbooks had taught me, but I didn't understand the foundations enough to create my own sentences, especially nothing more complicated than things like I like blank. Then in December 2023, I went to Korea for the first time, over 2 years after starting to learn the language, and I really struggled. I could barely speak to locals, even just to do basic things like order a meal, and if they spoke back to me in Korean, I had no chance of understanding what they were saying. That really showed me that if I wanted to truly learn the Korean language, something needed to change. So when I got home, I googled and found a Korean language school in Melbourne that specifically catered to non-Korean adults who wanted to learn the language and culture, unlike some typical other language schools that cater more to the culture's children learning their own native language because they aren't yet fluent. I joined my Korean school in January 2024 and still attend to this day. I've definitely noticed a huge progress jump between now and then, especially when I went back to Korea in April of this year and was able to have basic conversations with the locals and be complimented on my skills. In class, we have textbooks that we go through where the teacher explains all the vocab and grammar points, and then they also give us supplementary worksheets that have more problems we can use to practice, as well as being given vocab lists and homework every week. This structure really helped me and provided the support I needed to get further in a language than I ever have before. I still use my self-study tools like the apps and the Talk to Me in Korean books, but now they're more supplementary to what I am learning rather than my main source of knowledge. I'm privileged to be able to afford to go to these in-person classes, and I know there's many people who have achieved the same skill level and faster just with self-study alone. However, it's about what environments your brain learns best in. I'm not fluent, there's no arguing that. As my teacher would say, we're at about a mid-elementary grade level. We just have a bit more difficult vocab that is taught for adults rather than what children would learn at school. But I've noticed the huge improvements I've been making, even just this year alone. My weakest point is definitely my listening skills, especially when a native Korean is talking at full speed. So this is the learning type I tried to focus on the most with my self-study routine, and did this even more so just before going to Korea this year. I'll watch listening practice videos, basic Korean vlogs, do some topic listening practice exams, just to get my ear more into Korean. If I start not being able to understand what someone is saying, my brain tends to tune out and turn off, and I just fully lose it. And so I've been focusing on listening a lot more to get it to the level that my reading skills are. It's not perfect yet, but I found that recently I've been getting a bit better at glossing over things that I don't understand, picking out words that I do and trying to understand the context rather than just shutting down. So what's the next step for me? I'm actually planning on taking the first Korean proficiency exam, Topic 1, in October of this year. This is a huge step, and I'm motivated to try and do the absolute best I can in it. It's not even close to being fluent, even at the highest marks you can possibly get, but is a good stepping stone towards it and towards taking the Topic 2 exam, which is the proficiency exam that really determines recognized fluency. I'm really excited for this next step, and we'll be putting a lot more time into my Korean learning over the next few months, and we'll be making more content on my process along the way. If you're learning Korean or any other second language and would like to find some people to study and practice with, drop a comment down below with your language and skill level and meet some new friends. If you want to check out my language learning Notion template, which I use exclusively to track all my Korean learning, check out this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!